to a very special episode of the Feminine Frequency podcast. As you can see, today I'm joined by two beautiful ladies. We have Tracy Wilson, who is a licensed financial professional, and we have Mistral Dodson, who is an intuitive alchemist. And today we are having a very interesting conversation around money, how to release fears and scarcity mindset around money, and how to actually befriend money in your life and have a really groovy, juicy relationship with your finances.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Me
Thank you
too.
both for being here.
Thank you for having us. This is
You're
such an
welcome.
intimate conversation. I'm excited to have it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we've just been chatting offline and were like, we should be recording right now. And we
Yeah.
weren't. And of course, now that we're into the recording piece, we've got to find that flow again, which doesn't take us too long.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Where did we leave off? Should we just start at the beginning?
probably.
Okay.
Well, let's start with you, Tracy, since you work so much in this particular world and in this realm.
Mm-hmm.
What really comes up for the clients that you work with, and more of like the mindset and the money story piece? What what is some of the common obstacles and hurdles that you are facing?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have a very fear-based relationship with money. And I think we had talked about this before, but just even identifying that you can have a relationship with money is pretty radical for a lot of people. They just think that they are the neutral recipients of money, or they're, really agnostic in the whole process. They either have it or they don't, right? They don't really think about the fact that they're in a relationship with money, right? So
Yeah.
just helping people to see that they have power in that relationship, that they have agency over their money, and that it's not a scarce, limited resource that maybe they were taught it is when it comes to earning money. And I think that is the biggest hurdle, because a lot of people have that fear, they have that fear.
They
that
do. And sometimes even if they have an abundance of money, like I noticed when I was working in real estate for 12 or so years, just how emotional money is.
Yeah.
And when you talk about people buying or selling their largest asset, it's very emotional, very stressful. So in a sense, I've been coaching people for a very long time,
Yeah.
specifically in regards to like emotions around money. And even if, the client was like an investor, for example, and
Yeah.
you think, oh, to them, it's just math,
Mhm.
it's not emotional. Even for those clients, it was
Yeah.
very emotional.
Yeah.
It was a very big deal. You could just tell by the conversations we were having that
Yeah.
this represented something that, really meant a lot to them,
Mhm.
not just money wise, but or not just, number wise, but in a very personal way.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like we were talking
So-
about before, just the idea that it's energy.
Yeah.
Energy is held in that exchange of money. And even for
Mhm.
people who don't consciously realize that, subconsciously, they're holding on to that energy, right? Whether it be associating that piece of real estate with a milestone in their life or memories that went into the house. It's all an energy exchange. So it's not just about the money. It's never just about the money. So when you're talking to people, it's so important to understand that even though we like to believe that we're like logical beings and we're always making logical decisions based on the facts and based on the information provided, we're really not. We're emotional, right? We have so much that we put into the decisions that we make around money, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And money for so many of us as we were growing up was either scarce or it was present, but maybe it was calculated when it was present. And so that made it hard for a lot of people to have that relationship with money, which when you think about it, if your bank account isn't where you want it to be right now, or you're manifesting in a way that isn't what you truly desire, it's because you have this belief system in your body that is really holding you back from achieving what you truly desire. So, I mean, we'll be honest and transparent on this podcast. We're all going to be millionaires one day. Like this is our goal, but we're not there yet. But we talk about these things because money is such a hot topic for so many of us, because when you jump into something new, like chasing your dream, becoming a business coach, becoming a financial advisor, by becoming, with Goddess Uprising and starting your own business, we're stepping away from this tradition of where you work as X amount of hours to get this back in exchange, right? This monetary value back in exchange. And so when you give up this sort of societal pressure and you go to create your own, all of a sudden, all of these money stories that we have start to come up, because you start to realize how disconnected you are from what you truly want to create with money. But then also things like, I'm not worthy of having money, or if I become a millionaire, I'm going to be not a very nice person, or different things like that. And in my case, for me, it's not being worthy, or not knowing enough, or not having enough. And those are some of those subconscious blocks I really had to work through in order to get to staying in my business and continuing to build my business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for all of us being entrepreneurs, like we've really had to work through a lot of these subconscious fears and limiting beliefs have come up, just because the virtue of being an entrepreneur, like it's like personal development on steroids.
Yeah. You can't hide for, any capacity from yourself, right? You're constantly confronted with all of the things that are holding you back every single day if you're to be successful, right? There's no safety net. You are your safety net, right? So all of those things come into play for sure. Yeah. I have a question for you, actually.
Yeah.
So transitioning from real estate, or kind of moving more into coaching, what was the biggest catalyst for you in making that decision? You're kind of walking away from what is perceived as like lucrative and, extremely valid in our culture, in terms of earning. What was for you? What was the thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I just kind of got to a point when I just realized that, like, okay, so I have this life that I've built that is successful and appears successful in a lot of ways, right? I had the house, the family, the, lucrative business, got to do vacations and all the things, but it just felt like something was missing. It just felt like, is this all there is? And I had this calling, I had this feeling that I was meant for more, that there was more to life than just making sure the bills were paid and making sure the investments were growing and making sure we could retire at some point. It just felt like I lacked a sense of purpose and meaning. And I had really had this calling for a long time, but it was fear of lack, fear of scarcity that held me back. I thought about being a coach. I thought about, doing different things, but, and helping people in a more kind of profound way, but the money was a big fear. Where would it come from? And, and walking away from a lucrative business took a lot of courage.
Yeah.
To say the least. Yeah.
And I just asked that because I think there's probably a lot of people listening or watching that are thinking to themselves, like, I just could never leave my 6-figure job, or I could never leave the security of my paycheck every 2 weeks, or I could never do that. Like, I don't even know what the first step would look like. Right. And like I said, I know you did. I mean, we've all kind of done it in some way, shape, or form, but I just know, like, just interested to hear,
Well, I'll tell you my story, because it's completely opposite of that. I was working in nonprofits, I was working as a teacher, and I was not in a lucrative job at all. And living in a state here in Massachusetts where it's expensive, with 2 teachers at home, we were not bringing home enough to really raise our kids with all the desires that we wanted to do. And I have family that lives overseas, so I wanted to be able to travel and see them, and buying plane tickets for 4 people wasn't in our budget at all. And so we made the decision, actually, that I would just quit my job and start a business. And I'll be honest with you, at the time, I had no plan. I was a little bit naive. I just thought I could, like, show up online and start making money, because I was confident in myself. I could coach. I was a leader. I had all these, like, skills that I could package up and create this amazing thing. And then suddenly I realized, like, oh, there's all these fears. Like the reason I had this sort of capped income is actually not necessarily because of the profession that I was in, but because that was my belief that I couldn't earn more than that, that I wasn't worthy of more than that, that I wasn't capable of earning more than that. And so a part of me jumping into this business, I was really like, I just thought it was going to be easy. And then I had to spiral through all of this self-worth and abundance. And how do I even put together a package to sell and create? And so that's one of the things I've been really working on, was just that, but I always held on to it because I knew there would be more. I knew there would be more. And I had that feeling that I was worth more than what I was doing, for sure. But I took the leap because I just knew that I had to. Otherwise we were going to be broke anyway. So why not just like take a leap of faith, right?
Why
So I could
not?
see,
Yeah.
why not? So I can see from your point of view how that would be really hard to walk away from, because you had that wealth. Whereas I was coming from like, I'm taking a chance on myself because what I have right now isn't enough and I want more and I desire more and I want to create more. And that's why we take those leaps of faith sometimes. Although I can understand that not everybody's looking at me like crazy. Like, she was just doing it for the money. Like, yeah, I am doing it for the money. But now there's also so much more impact that comes from that.
It's
and
not
ripple
just for
effects.
the money.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was doing it to make our lives better than what we had in a job.
Yeah. So interesting. And I feel like I'm right in between you. Like, I came from the restaurant industry first, right? That was my kind of first transition, where I was making six figures, but I was getting to the point where I was so depleted, like so depleted. For anyone who's ever worked in the restaurant industry, you know what I'm talking about. I don't have to explain, but it was so physically, emotionally, mentally demanding that I realized it was completely unsustainable. And I also was losing time with my kids. My kids were teenagers at that point, and I knew the clock was ticking on being available to them. And it was one of those decisions where you just say, I've got to trust that what I'm feeling is right. What is being called out of me is actually for the highest good, right? I'm not leaving this chapter behind. I'm taking it with me into this next chapter because everything I've learned is valid. But it was extremely fortifying is the best way I can think to describe it, to take that step and know and trust that it was exactly on time, in divine timing, in direction to change my career. And I started coaching. I realized that was the thing that I really loved about being in the restaurant industry. It was like coaching my team and bringing people into a culture. And so it was a natural outgrowth of that. And I wanted to really expand on that skill set. Did that, and then realized all of these limiting beliefs, right? That I was like, oh my gosh, just like you were saying, I didn't only earn this amount of money because of the profession. I chose the profession because I believed that was all I could earn, right? Like, it was a little bit inverted in that way. And so as we kind of, do the work of peeling back all those different layers, you start to realize, so I've got to do the work on myself as I'm helping my clients do the work on themselves, right? So, that was for me, for sure, the next step in this whole journey of healing my relationship and becoming my money's bestie, right?
Yeah.
That was,
And your own best client.
Totally.
At the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what was that commercial? Like, I'm not only the president, I'm also a client, Yeah, that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what's so beautiful now is you're actually helping people through those financial beliefs, with actually helping them understand that when you do put your money away, how to make money off of that money, which is huge, because I think so many people, around the world, not just in our country here, are so undereducated in money. And I am too. And that's one thing I had to really step into with starting a business, is like learning all of those things about budgeting and managing your accounts, and how can we make the most out of the money that we have left before, I might have to go back and get a job or different things like that. And I think it's really important now that you get to then take this and help people almost feel safer,
Yeah.
maybe dispel some myths around money and help them understand how they can take what they have and make more of it.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think
Yeah.
we talk a lot about the energy of money, right? Just the energetic exchange. Well, I certainly realized that there was another piece, which was knowledge based, right? So it's the energy and then it's the practical, right? If you energetically believe that you're worthy of more money or that you, want more money, you desire it, and then you go, well, what are the practical steps that I actually need to understand in order to realize that, in order to realize that goal?
Yeah.
And so much of what I do is just education, just helping people understand like how our money is taxed, the options they have for growing their money, like how money even grows. What are these products? What are they called? How do they work? All of that stuff. And then once you actually give people the information and demystify it for them, they're like, oh, okay, I understand this, right? The more that we keep things gatekeeped,
Yeah.
where it's like, this is only for people that have this degree or this certificate or
Yes.
license. You just have to go to them for the information. People feel
Right.
disempowered.
Yeah.
So the moment they have access to the same information that I have, they're like, oh, okay. I
can do
understand.
this.
I understand what you
Yeah.
mean. I can make these decisions about my own money. I'm empowered to do that. And I'm completely confident in what I know, as someone who's now educated. And I think that's a huge reason a lot of people stay in that fear is they just
Yeah.
don't have that knowledge. They don't have
Right.
that education.
Yeah.
You
It's
fear what
system.
you don't know.
Correct.
And I love that you're bringing together both pieces, right? The
Yeah.
more practical side of things and just the nuts and bolts of, how money actually works, and then the energetics of it too, and the
Mhm.
emotional side of things too.
Yeah. Yeah. But isn't that the way everything works?
Yeah.
Right?
I
Like
mean,
it's
we're human beings. We have the logical, we have the emotional.
Yeah,
Right?
it
So
just might
everything
not
works.
be typical of the
Mhm.
financial industry. Like, I don't know how many people go to talk to their financial advisor and have a conversation about the energy of money. I don't know when that happens. That's certainly what I do. And I kind of do it in different ways depending on my client, but it's relevant, it's important, it's equally
Huge.
as important as talking to them about the solutions or the products that they have available. So I think that just like every industry has to evolve, so does the financial industry, right? We can't just talk about, here's the investment vehicle that's going to work for you and get you retired by 65. It's just not where people are because you're not addressing the root cause of their
Right.
concerns, fears, and all of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to just touch on something you said earlier too,
Yeah.
about how you kind of went through a lot of the fears that you had around money. And I think that's so important because sometimes and oftentimes that's the best way to deal with fear is just to go through it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
I think we kind of think of fear as like a dead end,
Mm-hmm.
and we're like, okay, never mind, shut that door, I'm going this way instead. But
Yeah.
actually, what I've learned is that if you just go through the fear,
Yeah.
then you have faith.
Yeah.
And all of
Totally.
a sudden you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm on the other side.
Right.
And
And
I'm
now there's a
still
whole new
alive.
world.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
still here, like telling the story. I'm actually safe. I'm fine. Right.
But you don't realize that if you're just keep pushing away the fear and you're letting that control
Yeah.
your next
Situation.
move,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so many people just stay stuck because they're
Mhm.
like, I'm scared to take a risk financially or
Yeah.
otherwise, and that's it. It's
Yeah.
a dead end.
Yeah.
You got to
And-
go through it.
Yeah, because we're told that, right?
Yeah.
You're told that you hear all these cautionary tales of people that end up in financial ruin because they make one false move and then the rest of their life is, destroyed. Exactly. And I think that's, what people allow themselves to believe is that I have the ability to make one mistake that could completely destroy my life. And it's like,
Mm.
no, what about the
Yeah.
possibilities that exist on the other side of that fear? Not
But how
risk.
many millionaires and billionaires have once been bankrupt?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Or
And then
maybe
Right.
bankrupt multiple times.
Or
and they
yeah.
and they know how to come back to it because they have the mindset of the
Yeah.
money. So they know how to create, make more. But when we
Mhm.
don't have that mindset, we're stuck. And
Yeah.
it's the fear, it's that energetic balance. But like what you were saying with energy, it's fear is heavy energy. It's heavy,
Yeah.
it's dense, it holds
Yeah.
us down.
Yeah.
And the realm of possibility and moving through it, like what you were saying, Carrie, is so uplifting and exciting. And if we can
Yeah.
hold ourselves up here, it makes doing those decisions or having those decisions or having the conversations with those decisions so much lighter
Yeah.
and accessible.
Yeah. But I do
Mhm.
think it's important that we mention, like, we're having this conversation. We don't necessarily stay on cloud nine every moment of every day in relationship to money. We're
No.
not like, just like, just floating above, just going like, oh, I hope everyone, joins us in mastering their fears for life.
No.
It's a constant process.
Yes.
It's a constant process of redeciding every day that you're going to cultivate this relationship with money, just like you would cultivate any relationship, right?
Yeah.
If I don't ever call Carrie or Mistral ever, and then 3 years from now, like, we get together, we're not going to really have the same connection. We're not going to have that continuity of relationship. It's the same with your money. Like, you've got to stay connected and stay in communication with your money in the same way. It's a relationship, just
Yeah.
like anything that involves energy is a relationship, right? So we've got to just look at it as something that you've got to constantly revisit, reintroduce yourself to, reassess. Does this serve me? Is this actually helping me to reach my goals? Am I really furthering my relationship with money
I
in the
love that.
direction that I want to go? And I think just remembering that we're actively engaged in this relationship. We're not passive recipients of money. You know what I
Thank
mean?
you for saying that. Yeah. And I think it's important to like look at what is the nature of the relationship. Like, is it avoidant attachment style or
Right.
anxious attachment style, or
Right.
are you okay? Like, either way, like one of my
Yeah.
big lessons that I had, like this epiphany where I was like, okay, what does money actually represent to me? Because like, do I care really what like the number says on my bank account? No. What does it actually mean to me? And to me, it means freedom,
Yes.
like freedom of choice, right?
Yeah.
Freedom to do what I want at any time, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, great. So like, can I be free with or without money? And I was like, well, yeah,
Yeah.
because like if I didn't have money, I could still like run through the meadows like barefoot and
Right.
be a hippie, like
Yeah.
there's a freedom to not having any attachments, not having
Yes.
anything, there's Janis Joplin says freedom's just another name for nothing left to lose,
Yeah.
right? So like
Right.
there's a type of freedom there too. So I was like, okay, so I'm free either way. So actually I don't have to make money my one chance for freedom. Like I can choose to be free
Yeah.
emotionally, mentally, right? And just like say, that's it, I'm free.
Mm-hmm.
And then money can come.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you've just essentially explained what the antithesis of fake it till you make it is, because you're not faking that. You're just literally embodying freedom and then attracting more freedom. And that's the difference. You're not, disingenuously being like, I'm free. I swear I'm free, right? You're like, no, I'm going to feel into what that vibe actually is, so
Right.
that I can
Yes.
stay connected to that vibration and attract more of it.
Yeah.
In the
So
form
instead
of
faking
money.
it till you make it, you feel it
Yes.
till you make it.
Yes.
Right. That's like the new saying.
Yeah.
Ooh, I haven't heard that. I like that. That's so much more, that resonates so much more.
Right.
Yeah.
Because energy, right? You're feeling that energy. You're in that space of freedom. You're cultivating that on a daily basis. And when you feel that negative vibe towards money, maybe it's when you're looking at your bank account. Although I do want to ask the question, like, how many people actually look at their bank account, look at their credit cards, what they owe? What kind of feeling does it give you? Does it give you a sense of anxiety, fear, scarcity, or abundance, right? And can you look at your credit card or your bank account and look at that money, that amount, whether it's big or small, and say like, I'm so grateful for what I have right now, and feel that freedom, because it's that feeling to get to the other side through the fear. That's what gets you through the fear, right? Is that feeling, the embodiment, the expansion.
Yeah.
And that's not easy.
Yeah.
Like what, we were saying before, especially what you were noting, like we're not up here feeling that all the time. We were just talking about before, some of the struggles that we each have around feeling this. I used to have such anxiety opening my bank account to look at it and be like, it's just not enough. How are we going to make it to the end of the month? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And there were times when I opened my account and still it was like that, but I had to be able to be like, the realm of possibility, things will come. And sure enough, something falls into your lap, something comes your way, whether like a random check, a client, a gift from somebody. And but you have to be in that realm of possibility, because negative attracts negative, positive attracts positive. Feeling the high vibrations of the realm of possibility is positive and will attract more positive to you.
Yeah. Totally.
But it's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And
I think it's funny because you said, when you look at your bank statement, you think like, I only have this, or like, I don't have enough. If you were to take that same mindset and apply it to your debt, for example, because debt has a lot of weight for people, they go, oh my God, I have like $100,000 in student loans. What if you said, oh my God, thank God I only have $100,000 in student loans, because like I could pay that off in a few years if I really wanted to, right? Just shifting your mindset around that. There are people walking this planet right now that have 7 and 8 figures of debt, right? Like it's not about the number. It's about the mindset.
They're the wealthiest people.
They're super wealthy. They just understand money. They understand it. Going back to the practical, they understand money. They understand how to use it, how to maneuver, how to leverage. And that's a lot of what I personally teach my clients is it's not about the number. That's so incidental. It's just like we were talking before. 2 clients could give you that amount of income, or 2 years of paying off that debt. You'd be debt free if you really wanted to. It's up to you. You have agency over your money. You have agency over your debt. You have agency over all of it. You got to start by believing that you do.
Right. So that coming to this, I think this is a good segue for us to sort of maybe share some of the things that we do, because I want people to also have the ability to access, okay, so these are the things I feel. You talk about doing these things, but what are some of the practices that each of us do that hopefully will resonate with people listening or watching, that they can take away from this today?
Yeah, totally.
So, you want to go first, Carrie, and then tell us like,
Well,
what are some
something that I
things
was
you
just
do?
thinking about when you were talking before, it just reminded me of a book, one of my favorite books called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. And she says, it's just a brilliant book, but one of the things she says is you always have enough money. And if I'm freaking out about money, because as we're all sharing, like we still have moments, right? If I'm having one of those freak out moments, I'll always remember that phrase. You always have enough money. And it's true. Like I've had, I've been an entrepreneur for a very, very long time. So I've had many of those kinds of moments, but I've always figured it out. Right. I've never ended up on the street. I've never died, clearly, because I lack of money. And I think anyone who's watching this could say the same.
Right.
So for the amount of worry and anxiety and stress that money causes, isn't it kind of crazy? Considering we always have enough and we're not dead. Like clearly it somehow figures itself out. So that's one of my quick hacks, just to be like, okay, like I'm all right. I'm all right. Because I think, another thing is think about a lot is like money has this very like survival kind of thing to it, where it's like it's linked to our very survival instinct. Even though like we're in such an abundant country here in the US, and there's so many opportunities, and there's, social services and things like that. Like most of us are not in such dire straits. In fact, most of us live in luxury compared to other countries. But we still feel it like it's life or death. And so in a way, it's just dealing with that fear. It's just managing that and just bringing ourselves back to like calm and neutral place where we can actually kind of like think logically and apply the practical part of things. So
so good. Simple, but good. It's like, especially that practice for you, just like anything, you've practiced it, right? You've practiced it. It's like, where you have to go when you feel this anxiety. You're like, okay, I have more than enough. I have, it's that belief that you have to circle back to. And I think for me, it was always, we were talking before about just being able to manifest material things pretty easily. I had to remind myself that I was pretty good at that So shifting that
Mm.
same energy over
Yes.
to money
Mhm.
was no different energetically.
No.
No different
Yeah.
at all. So if I just decided that I could just do this and I could shift that energy over here and apply it in the same exact way, I'm good, right? I'm good. So I just have to remind myself, I already know how to manifest money. I already know how to generate money. I already know how to take care of money. I just need to shift, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Mhm.
sometimes it's just such a small shift. You're over here going, oh my God, I have this much debt. I have this much debt. And then you go, I only have this much debt. What a blessing. Like it could be so much worse, right? So it's that small shift that just reminds you the same facts can be looked at any way you slice it, right? You just have to decide.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all about the
Glass is
decision.
half
Yeah.
full or half empty.
Yeah, exactly. Same amount of liquid, right?
So one thing I really love to do is to get back into my body, right? Because we're so stuck in our logical mind, and there's a part of logic that's really important, right? When we're
Yeah.
looking at investing and finances, but a part of it's also just dropping back into our body and trusting our intuitiveness
Yeah.
that we are safe, that we are whole, and that there is enough and it's coming, right?
Mhm.
It's coming. So that's one thing I really love to do is to, and for me, it's doing movement. I love to hula hoop. I love to go for a walk. I love to maybe put some music on and dance, something that drops me back into my body when I'm feeling that
Okay.
negativity. And I'm not perfect at it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't do it every single time. Sometimes I do get into a negative spiral. Like, let's be honest, we're human, right?
Yeah.
And the emotions can be so gripping and so scary at times. But as soon as I can drop back into my body and take that time to almost reset, coming out on the other side feels so much safer,
Yeah.
so much more controlled, so much more just back in the
Mhm.
reality, back in the world of possibility.
Yeah.
That possibility is all around me, abundance is all around me. The energy that I hold will attract to me what I need
Mhm.
when I am in my positive state. So,
Yeah.
focus on being in that positive state. And for some people, it's it's affirmations. For some people, it's journaling. For some people, it's talking out loud. For me, it's getting back into my body.
Yeah.
So you do have to play around with what works for you.
Yeah.
But finding that is key.
Yeah.
And shifting,
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
the shift.
Yeah, exactly. And then rinse and repeat. Like
And then
do it
rinse-
again tomorrow, right? You're not going to
Every day.
stay in the same state of being every single moment of every day. So things are going to happen. Life is going to keep lifing. You go, okay,
Right.
what do I need to do again? I need to go ahead and get back into my body, repeat this mantra, journal it out, whatever it is. You just have to decide now that you're going to keep trying. You're going to keep working on the relationship. It's worth it, right? It's worth it because
Yes.
it's going to give you access to that next level version of yourself. And just like any relationship that we value, we put the effort in, right? We put the effort in, and you have to just remind yourself it's a long-term relationship that you've got to keep coming back to and keep working on. And it's worth it, right? It's worth it because it
Yeah.
gives us that access and that flexibility that we want in terms of that next level of freedom. Not that we can't be free right here, right now, but being able to be access, help, support, and just be amplified on all levels is, I think, everyone's goal,
Right. And
Yeah.
we live in a world where money matters, right? Money
Mhm.
matters. And our society keeps us stuck and fearful because of the way the money has been set up and the way for us to earn and buy new things all the times and the sort of materialistic side of things. And even if you're not materialistic, there's still needs. You still have to buy underwear and shoes
Right.
and clothes, right?
Yeah.
And food. And you still have to have a roof over your head. So I think society builds that fear within us because we have to have these things, right? And then
Yeah.
our kids get older and they start asking for things, and then you got to be like, oh my God, we can't afford it. And then there's this, and then there's that. And so you also want to think about how you
Mhm.
reflect money back, how you're talking about money, the way that you're showing up around money. Because
Mhm.
if I was showing up around you all the time so negative and crazy, you're not going to want to hang out with me. You're not going to stay friends with me, right? So it's coming
Yeah.
back to that relationship with money of being
Yeah.
that positive.
Yeah. And also thinking about like where we might be pushing money away, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
especially from like the feminine angle,
Mhm.
I think there's certain limiting beliefs because if you think about it, we're one of the first generations, if not the first generation, where women can be financially free,
Yeah, totally.
at least at a large scale. I know there've been,
anomalies
anomalies
in the
before
past.
us, right?
Mhm.
But like Coco Chanel or what have you, but like, yeah, our generation can do that, you know, and
Mhm.
any of us can do that. Like
Yeah.
we have those opportunities. Thank
Yeah.
goodness. And thank you to all our ancestresses before us for
Mhm.
providing those opportunities and possibilities. But like we're literally like creating this new paradigm right now. And with that, there's a lot of beliefs and fears that can be buried in our subconscious. Like,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
is it feminine to make money? Is it
Yeah.
feminine to be the breadwinner? Is it, you know, is
Mhm.
my mom didn't do that. My grandmother might not have done that, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, there's some conflicts there, and you can if you get really real with yourself and actually, you know, do the shadow work and excavate these fears, some shocking things can come up.
Yeah.
Speaking from experience,
Right.
where you're like, oh, so I'm telling money I want it, but I'm also telling money I don't want it. I want to stay struggling because that makes me more likable, or, you
Yeah. More
know,
relatable.
the
Yeah.
damsel in distress, or whatever it might be,
Mhm.
like the role or the identity that you're playing.
Yeah,
Totally.
that's so interesting. You just said identity, because I mean, as we were talking before this episode started, just about identity and how we actually identify, it's such a loaded question, right? And for me, I personally realized, in terms of that repelling of money, I was living in this dichotomous identity where if I was a restaurateur, how would people understand me or relate to me if I also told them I own an artist management agency, which I do? It's like, how would they reconcile that? And I also told them I was an educator and I taught middle school Spanish. Oh my God, like I don't fit in a box. How are people going to understand me? And it's all these fears around not really trusting that people can handle a dynamic woman or a dynamic person and all of the identities that come with them. So it's like, now I can say I'm a licensed financial professional, I'm a business and mindset coach, I'm an artist manager, agency owner, I'm an educator who's fluent in Spanish, right? I can say these things and I can just unabashedly put them out there and do with it what you will, right? It's like, you're in real estate, you're also a coach. It doesn't make any difference
Mhm.
to anyone whether you're doing just one thing really well or you're doing multiple things really well. It's actually in our heads, right? That like
Yeah.
other human beings around us are not going to be able to handle how to reconcile these different identities. And I think that all goes into it. It's like, I didn't want to make myself available to these other identities and thus the revenue that could come from them, because I was afraid it would be too much for people.
Wow.
So once you start to really sit in that realization that like there's space for all of them, they can all exist, they're all part of me, I can integrate all of them, and therefore I can welcome the income that comes with all of these different identities and all of the things that you teach, Mistral. It's like all of those things come in your being and your brand and the person that you are, and there's space for all of it,
That's right.
you know?
Yeah.
So I
And
mean,
you can be a mom, and you can be, you know, a millionaire, you can be an entrepreneur, you can be,
Yeah.
you know, an artist. Like,
We
Yeah.
get
it's
so
okay.
stuck boxing ourselves
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
to what society thinks we should be, or what we trained to be, or
Yeah.
what our degree or certificate says we need to be.
or what we think is
Yeah.
palatable. It's like,
Yes.
oh, if it's not something that I think people will understand, I don't know how to say it, right?
know.
It's like, so it's all these things that we're actively working on, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're actively working this out, but what more worthy pursuit than integrating your identities so that you can become the biggest, best version of yourself for the highest good of the
Humanity.
planet, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
Right.
what better pursuit?
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't
Mic drop. Mic drop.
I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I just felt like
Perfect.
saying that, right? I mean, I feel like we led there. So
I mean, we kind of
yeah.
started before we hit record. That's exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Like exactly what we were talking
Yeah.
about. And as you were talking, I was thinking, one of the things that I struggled with money so much is I always used to put rich people on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And I never thought I could be on that pedestal because I wasn't smart enough. I didn't do the right degree. I was just working in the nonprofit, sector, whatever you say about yourself, right?
Mhm.
And that was something that followed me through when I started my business, was I then started putting all the, 6-figure coaches and the 7-figure coaches on pedestals. And so the same pattern happened again. So when you start to recognize these patterns, then you can deconstruct them. And that's huge, because that was what breaks it down to now being like, oh, it doesn't matter if they're a millionaire. They're just human. They're just human like me. They still have the same fears, the same self-conscious awareness, the same worries about their body shape.
On one leg at a time.
Still
Yes.
one leg at a time. Right. And
Yeah.
it just doesn't matter. We're all can be on that pedestal together.
Yeah.
And then it's just shifting your mind. It's like dealing with like the worm in your mind and getting rid of that so that you can, or the game, the maze, whatever you want to call it, and realizing that you're just trying to keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
You don't need to.
The drunk monkey. That's what we used to call it in real estate. The drunk monkey.
Oh my gosh, what is that? I don't even know what that
Like
means.
I don't know what that means either.
the negative, the spiral that you go
Oh,
down. It was like the drunk monkey doing a dance on your mindset.
Right.
Go away.
I love that. That's hilarious.
great visual.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's such a great visual.
Right?
Like, oh, totally makes sense now. I get it. Right. Yeah.
It talks nonsense. It talks you out of following your dreams.
Totally.
It talks you out of the fact that you're worthy enough to follow your dreams. It talks you out of
Yeah.
everything. And I will tell you right now, like owning a business, starting a business, it's hard work, right?
Yeah.
But it also, and so many times I could have quit and just gone back to having a job and just been like, it's just not for me. It's just not for me,
Yeah.
But you have to just deal with that drunk monkey, because it just tells you lies.
Yeah.
It's lies. It's all lies. Like, why not? Why can you not be rich? Why can you not have a successful business, whatever business it is you choose to be? Like, why not?
Yeah. I tell my agents all the time in the financial, world, the only way for you to fail is if you quit.
Yes.
Because it's true. It's like
So
your
true.
success is inevitable.
Yes.
It just might not happen in the exact time frame that you want it to.
Yeah.
And therefore you start to get frustrated and you take yourself out. Ultimately, the only way to fail is to quit. So if you just go in with that mindset that my success is inevitable, gonna happen, going to be a millionaire, going to have a successful business, whatever it is that your goal is, it's just a matter of time. You totally shift that framework that you're operating in. It's no longer like every sign that something doesn't go perfectly is a reminder that you're going to fail. It's more just like, oh, this is just going to happen along the way to my road to success.
Yeah.
Just a little bump, knew it was going to happen.
So much.
Keep it moving, right? So it's like, again, what framework are you operating in? Are you just waiting for the sign that you're going to fail? Or are you waiting for the signs that you're on the right path, that you're just going to get a little detour here and there? And success awaits you, awaits you to claim it.
Something I've learned through working with Mistral and my human design profiles, I've learned that I'm a line 3, which means that I learn through trial and error. And that was like a relief to figure that out, because I'm like, that is how I learn.
Yeah.
Like I've had bumps in the road. I've had, failures, but I've learned so much. And it's like reading it in a book, it's just not the same, or someone telling me goes in one ear out the other. I have to experience it for myself. Right. And that's how I've garnered my wisdom. And that's how, I've lived my life, and just, it really freed me up to know that about myself on, in that context, and just be like, you know what, I'm a badass. Cause like I've done all this stuff and I've turned it into like lessons and wisdom, and I've learned more from the mistakes than I have from the successes. So it's all good.
And also that you no longer feel like you've got to try to avoid that process. It's like you can just embrace it now. You don't have to go like, oh gosh, I think this might not work out, or this might end up leading me to another dead end. It's like, no, this is just my process. This is how I do things. This is how I succeed. And to your credit, being an amazing human design coach yourself, it's like, that's so freeing for people to just understand their human design, so that they're not fighting themselves along the road to success. Like
feeling
it can be easier, right?
Yeah.
That's not how that person got there. So I must be doing something wrong. It's like, they have a different human design, sweetheart.
Yeah.
They're just on a different journey, right? Doesn't have to look the same for you, So I think that's super powerful.
And Mistral does monthly human design workshops inside our membership, the Breakout. So
that's awesome.
Just putting it out
Should come
there.
along, yeah.
Come
So
along
good.
for the ride,
So
right?
good.
So I know this is a really tough topic, but we've talked offline about, you know, kind of financial loss, right? Just making investments. I know. You're like, let me just have a sip of water. But I think it's so
just water, it's
important.
not butter.
Right, exactly. It's nothing stiffer than H2O, right? I think it's super important for people to hear that journey for us, because it is scary. I'm not gonna like fake the funk. It's scary to be like, I don't know how I'm
Yeah.
gonna pay my mortgage, right? Like, this is real. It's not like, oh, my little extra fund that I got from my benefactor is gone. It's like, no. Like, I'm not sure how this is gonna actually work, like now, like next month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think to be able to sit here and say, like, we came out on the other side, it can be fine, like it can all work out for you. Like, don't be afraid of taking that risk, that calculated risk, that intuitive risk, just because you don't want to lose some money, right?
You can make money back.
Yes,
And you will make money back. But
Yeah.
you have to have that mindset of exactly what you said before, where if you go into something and give it a try for a month or two, or even a year or two, like most businesses aren't profitable for 5 years.
Yeah.
And so you have to have that mindset. Yes, maybe someone else did it in 6 months. Yes, maybe someone else did it in 2 years. But realistically, most businesses aren't successful until 5 years. And you have to go in with that mindset of like, if this is my vision and this is what I desire, everything else has to be blacked out, like almost put on your little blinders almost, because otherwise you'll quit, and then it is a failure, because then you're basically telling the universe that you don't believe in yourself. And so why should I have what I desire?
And I can relate to that in terms of putting on the blinders. The one thing that I have learned, which has unequivocally been the most significant through line to every venture, is that your vision is the place that you're starting from, right? You don't have to stay there if your vision in fact changes. Right? You don't have to stay there. It's like, as you get new information and you might be like, well, this doesn't fit this, it doesn't fit this. It's okay to still trust yourself and be like, you know what? I'm going to change the vision slightly, because what's happening in real time feels really right. Intuitively, I feel like I am on the right track. It just doesn't quite look how I thought it would look. And that is all good. It's all part of the process. So again, just going back to the investing or the debt piece, where, you know, everything doesn't necessarily manifest profit right away. Knowing that, okay, as long as I stay connected to my intuitive wisdom, to that intuitive guidance system that I have, I will figure this out. I am going to find out the solution. I am going to see the answers all around me if I stay in that mindset that I'm already on the road to success. So even though I might have invested in a program that just doesn't pan out the way I thought it was, where's the silver lining in this? What did I take away? What did I gain? Who did I meet in the process?
I learned what I don't want to do, right?
I learned what I do not want to do.
What does not work.
Exactly.
And that's important. That's valuable information.
Super valuable.
Knowledge.
But if you stay in the mindset of, oh my God, I just wasted $10,000, or I just wasted X amount of dollars, you're missing the whole point. The whole point is for you to learn, grow, develop yourself, and move further on your journey to your own success, right?
Because it's just money.
Yeah.
Like when it comes down to that relationship, it's just money.
Yeah.
And we put that fear and that amount on it as
That
whatever that
emotional charge.
is, emotional charge, when really it's just money. And I don't want to put it, it's not a negative thing. It's just like, money comes in,
It's
money
neutral.
comes out.
It's a tool.
It's neutral. It's a
It's
tool.
not,
because money is
positive or
not
negative.
mad at you
No.
for spending it on something that
No.
doesn't pan out for you. It's
Right.
you that gets mad at you, right? And it's like, but what if it didn't really mean anything? What if it actually doesn't mean anything about your future success, or the inevitability of it, or anything like that? What if it just means you needed to learn some lessons, and the energy exchange of those lessons was $10,000, right?
Right. And going back to like identity and the stories we tell ourselves, like it's what what do we make it mean,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
by itself, it
100%.
doesn't mean anything. It's just a number.
Yeah.
And then
But
you
it's
keep
what are we,
yourself in
what meaning are we assigning to it, and what are we making it mean about ourselves?
Yeah.
And I know, Tracy, you and I have talked about losing tens of thousands of dollars on investments and businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's, again, with the trial and error piece, there might be a part of me that needed or wanted to have that experience, because otherwise, how do I know? I'm going to go my whole life being scared of scarcity and not even actually know what it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that makes no sense. So there's like a shadowy desire that, yeah, I think I have, and maybe a lot of people do. Like, I just want to feel like what that is.
Yeah.
Like, is it really as bad as I am making it out to be in my head?
Yeah.
Or what? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's gonna actually happen?
Yeah.
And then you
And-
get there, and then you can lose a fascination with it because you've had the experience and you're like, okay, moving on. I've been there, done that.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna go back to actually having money in the account.
Here to
That's
tell
a lot
the
more
story.
fun.
Yeah, totally. Now I
As
know
it
how to do
turns out.
both. Now I
Yeah.
actually know how to do both. I'm gonna choose door number one.
Yeah.
How about that?
I
Yeah.
prefer being able to pay for my groceries,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And again, it's just like, as long as you don't make it mean that you're now bad with money, that you're now destined for failure, you're now, oh my gosh, I can't handle investing in myself. Because again, it's all about relativity. There are people right now as we speak that could not imagine spending less or investing less than $100,000 in their business this month to grow it in the future.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
just relative.
Yeah.
They're just sitting there going, well, yeah, I'm going to lose this 100, but that's okay, because we're going to learn X, Y, and Z. We're going to refine our process. We're going to get a better read on our clients, and we're going to keep moving forward. Wow. What if you just had that mindset? Like, what if you
Right.
just had this mindset that you were just like, well, you know, I'm going to do my best to make this work out, but if it doesn't, I'm going to grow from it 100%.
So empowering.
So
Yeah. And again, just reminding ourselves it's the conditioning that we've likely come up with, that debt is bad, you shouldn't spend more than you have, right? All these things that we're taught that make us feel like, oh my gosh, if I do that, I'm going to end up like a pariah of society with all this debt sitting over there. And it's like,
Right.
says who? Like, I don't know if the internet police are going to come to your house to say, I saw you make an investment, right? Like, nobody is going to do that. You're doing it to yourself, you know?
Yeah. And what if the debt was, investing in a business, right?
Mhm.
Or investing in education, or, helping your family get ahead in life. Like, there's no morality to debt, right?
Right.
It could be a good thing. It could be a not so good thing, but there's debt in itself is not a
Yeah.
moral issue.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
it can be used for whatever you
Yeah.
you
And it's
deem
also
appropriate.
it's also not an irresponsible
Not
issue,
right.
right? Not even like
Not
moral. It's like,
necessarily.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be looked at as, you're now irresponsible with money. And I talk to my clients all the time about the fact that, listen, I see that you have some debt, but if it's not keeping you up at night, let's move on to the other thing, right? Like, move on to the other thing that's a
Mhm.
priority, because it doesn't actually matter. What's going to happen is it's going to get wiped out. You're going to grow your money. You're going to retire when you want. All of that stuff is going to become manifest. Let's just decide right now what's most important to you, right? That's ultimately what this is about, is you being happy, you being comfortable, you being fulfilled, you having that peace of mind, and you get to decide what that means,
Right. When the abundance comes, the debt will naturally, go away.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
will happen.
Yeah, exactly.
remove the emotional charge
Yeah.
in whichever way enables you to do so.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
this
we've
has
had a
been
great chat.
awesome. Yeah. This has been
I
so
mean, oh
good.
gosh,
We've covered a
we-
lot of ground.
We've talked so long, it's now dark.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. This was a great conversation. Tracy, tell our listeners where they can connect with you.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you can put my email in
Yes,
there.
I
Yeah,
can.
we
Yeah,
can do
I'll put it in the
that.
show notes.
Yeah, I'm on
Is that
Instagram,
okay.
but
And on Instagram?
yeah,
Perfect.
either way.
And what about you, Ms. Rawl? I'll
Yeah.
put your Instagram in there. What else? Anything else?
Perfect. Yeah. My Instagram is To Living in Flow. And so come check us out, say hello. We have all kinds of amazing ways that you can connect and continue to learn from us, because really it comes down to just the embodiment of money
Mhm.
and the vibration of money, and
Yeah.
the vibration that we're all worthy
Yeah.
of going to that next level.
For
100%.
sure. Well, thank you so much, ladies. And
Thank
for
you
listening.
for
And
hosting,
we'll-
amazing hostess.
Yeah,
Yes.
my pleasure. We'll see you on the next episode of the Feminine Frequency. Bye for now.